Commander Vex'lar of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet had seen many things in her 400 cycles of service. She had witnessed the collapse of 3-star systems, negotiated peace treaties with species that communicated through interpretive dance, and once, memorably, had to explain to the High Council why her ship's cargo bay was full of what could only be described as sentient pudding. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for humans. "Let me get this straight," Vex'lar said, her 3 eyes blinking in careful sequence to indicate extreme confusion. She looked down at the datapad, then back up at the 2 creatures standing before her in the detention cell. "You punched a Korthian Battle Lord during a diplomatic reception." The male human, who had introduced himself as Marcus Webb, had the audacity to grin. Actually grin. His teeth, those strange flat crushing implements that somehow also functioned as threat displays, gleamed in the sterile light of the holding facility. "Well," Marcus said, drawing out the word in that peculiar way humans did when they were about to say something that would make everything worse. "Technically I headbutted him." The female human, Emma Torres, closed her eyes and pinched the bridge of her nose. Vex'lar had studied human body language extensively in the 3 cycles since their species had joined the galactic community, and she recognized this gesture. It meant something along the lines of, "I am experiencing profound regret about the existence of this person in my immediate vicinity." "Marcus," Emma said, her voice tight, "now is not the time. I mean, accuracy matters, right?" Marcus continued, apparently unable to read the room, or the cell. Whatever humans called enclosed spaces where people regretted their life choices. A punch uses the fist. A headbutt uses the head. Different force applications, different injury patterns, different— "Shut up," Emma said. Vex'lar's mandibles clicked in what she hoped conveyed the appropriate level of professional exasperation. "The Korthian Empire is demanding your immediate execution. They claim you violated 7 different accords, 12 treaties, and something called the sacred right of not hitting people in the face during parties." "To be fair," Marcus said, and Vex'lar's translator unit actually stuttered on those words because apparently humans used that phrase before saying things that were decidedly unfair. He insulted Emma, called her a soft-skinned prey creature, and said humans only got into the galactic community because we were good at servile tasks. Emma's hand shot out and grabbed Marcus's shoulder. "We talked about this. We agreed. You were going to count to 10, remember? Use your words, not your face, as a battering ram." "I got to 3, Marcus protested. Vex'lar felt a headache forming behind her central eye. Humans had been part of the galactic scene for such a short time, and already they were causing incidents at a rate that would make the Chaos Monks of Brendor look organized and peaceful. And those beings literally worshipped entropy. "Let me explain something to both of you," Vex'lar said, settling her bulk onto the chair that groaned ominously under her weight. "The Korthians are not a species you want to anger. They are apex predators. They have conquered 47 systems. Their warriors are trained from hatching to kill efficiently and without mercy. They're also 6'2", Marcus interrupted, "which makes them exactly my height. Makes headbutting very convenient." Emma's grip on his shoulder tightened visibly. "Marcus, I swear by every star in this sector if you do not stop talking." "What?" Marcus looked genuinely confused. "I'm just saying, from a tactical perspective, there is no tactical perspective that makes assaulting a diplomatic envoy acceptable." Vex'lar's voice rose to what her species considered a stern rebuke, which to humans probably sounded like someone gargling gravel. "The Korthians have killed species for less. They once glassed an entire moon because someone served them the wrong temperature beverage. Sounds like they need therapy," Marcus muttered. Emma made a sound that Vex'lar's translator labeled as exasperated groan mixed with the desire to commit violence. The detention cell fell silent for a moment, broken only by the hum of the force field and the distant sounds of the station's life support systems. Vex'lar studied the 2 humans carefully. They were such strange creatures. Soft, relatively speaking, no natural armor, no venom, no ability to survive in vacuum even for a few moments, and yet, they had spread across their home system faster than any species on record, had developed faster than light travel in a time frame that made historians question their math, and had somehow impossibly become important players in galactic politics within 3 cycles. "Here is what is going to happen," Vex'lar said, her voice dropping to a more conversational tone. "The Korthian delegation has agreed to a traditional resolution. A hunt." Emma's face went pale. Vex'lar had learned that this was a human fear response, blood draining from the surface tissues to protect vital organs. It was not a good sign. "A hunt," Emma repeated slowly. "You mean where they chase someone through hostile terrain and try to kill them?" "Precisely," Vex'lar confirmed. It is an old Korthian custom. The offender is given a head start, basic supplies and released into a designated hunting ground. If they survive for one planetary rotation, the insult is considered answered and honor is restored. Marcus, on the other hand, looked interested. His eyes, those bizarre forward-facing things that indicated a predatory ancestry despite humanity's claims of being mostly peaceful now, lit up. So, like a game of tag? But with more murder. This is not a game? Emma's voice cracked slightly. Marcus, they will actually try to kill you. With weapons. Sharp ones. Probably explosive ones too. The hunt will take place on Station Gamma 7. Vex'lar continued, pulling up a holographic display. It is a decommissioned mining facility. Plenty of places to hide, multiple levels, environmental hazards. Standard hunt protocol. Environmental hazards, Emma said flatly. You mean things that can kill him besides the angry alien warriors? Correct. Marcus was actually leaning forward now, studying the holographic map with what appeared to be enthusiasm. This was wrong. This was very wrong. Prey species, when informed they were about to be hunted, typically showed fear, resignation, desperate attempts at negotiation. They did not look like children being shown a new playground. How many hunters? Marcus asked. The Battle Lord and 2 of his elite guard, Vex'lar said. 3 total. And I get supplies? What kind of supplies? Basic survival gear, water, nutrition packs, a medical kit, and 1 weapon of your choice from the approved list. Emma stood up so abruptly that the chair scraped loudly against the floor. No, absolutely not. We can appeal this. Go through proper channels. File a complaint with the Interspecies Relations Committee. That process takes approximately 40 rotations, Vex'lar said gently. The Korthians want their hunt within the next 6 hours. If we refuse, they have threatened to consider it an act of war against humanity. Your entire species. The weight of those words settled over the cell like a physical thing. Emma sat back down slowly, her face cycling through several expressions that Vex'lar's translator struggled to identify. Probably various flavors of horror and disbelief. So I do this, or Earth gets attacked by angry lizard warriors, Marcus summarized. Is that about right? They are not lizards. Vex'lar corrected automatically. They are a proud reptilian species with a rich cultural heritage spanning thousands of cycles. Angry dinosaur warriors? That is, somewhat closer actually. Emma put her head in her hands. This cannot be happening. This cannot actually be happening. We have been in space for 3 years. 3 years, Marcus. And you have somehow managed to start an interstellar incident. To be fair, Marcus started. Do not finish that sentence, Emma warned. Vex'lar cleared her throat, which in her species involved a complex series of clicks and whistles. There is one other detail you should know. The hunt will be broadcast. It is tradition. The entire galactic community will be watching. Oh, perfect, Emma said, her voice dripping with what humans called sarcasm, a form of communication that Vex'lar found both fascinating and deeply confusing. Not only does he get to die horribly, but everyone gets to watch. I am not planning on dying, Marcus said cheerfully. Both Vex'lar and Emma stared at him. You do understand, Vex'lar said slowly, that Korthian Battle Lords are trained warriors? That they have killed hundreds of beings in combat? That they see hunting as a sacred art? Sure, Marcus said. But here is the thing. I am from Earth. And on Earth you know what we were? The things that threw rocks at mammoths. The things that chased animals until they literally died of exhaustion. The things that looked at every other predator on the planet and said, we are going to domesticate you or make you extinct, pick one. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. But we are absolutely, without question, the most stubborn creatures to ever evolve. Emma looked at him with an expression that mixed pride, fear, and resignation. You are going to do something stupid, are not you? Probably, Marcus agreed. But here is what the Battle Lord does not know. Humans. We cheat. It is kind of our thing. Vex'lar felt that headache intensifying. The rules of the hunt are very specific. No external assistance, no prohibited weapons, no breaking the rules. Got it, Marcus said. But nobody said anything about bending them until they scream for mercy. That is not how rules work, Vex'lar protested weakly. Commander, Emma said, standing up again and moving to stand beside Marcus. I am going with him. Absolutely not, Vex'lar said immediately. The hunt is a solo trial. Only the offender may participate. Then make me the offender too, Emma said firmly. I was there. I could have stopped him. I share responsibility. Emma? No, Marcus said, and for the first time since entering the cell, he looked genuinely concerned. You do not have to do this. Shut up, Marcus, Emma said, but her voice was soft. You are an idiot and you are probably going to get us both killed, but I am not letting you face 3 alien murder machines alone. Vex'lar looked between the 2 humans, her 3 eyes struggling to process this interaction. Humans formed what they called bonds. Not just biological imperatives for reproduction or pack survival, but genuine emotional connections that made them do completely irrational things, like volunteer to be hunted by apex predators. This is highly irregular, Vex'lar said, but she was already pulling up the modification forms on her datapad. The Korthians may not accept. Tell them it is 2 offenders or no hunt, Emma said. Tell them Earth refuses to participate under single combatant rules. You cannot refuse, Vex'lar pointed out. That would mean war. Then they get 2 targets instead of 1, Emma said. Better entertainment for their broadcast, right? The customer's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of stress among her people. You are all insane. Your entire species. Completely, utterly insane. Yeah, Marcus said, grinning again. That is what makes us fun. 2 hours later, Vex'lar stood in the observation deck watching as Marcus and Emma were transported to Station Gamma 7. The holographic displays showed multiple angles of the abandoned mining facility. It was a grim place, all rusted metal and failing lights with a thin, barely breathable atmosphere that would make every breath a struggle. The Korthian Battle Lord, whose name translated roughly to "he who ends things," stood on the opposite transport platform. He was 7 feet of scaled muscle and barely contained rage. His 2 guards flanked him, each carrying weapons that could probably level a small building. This is a mistake, said Lieutenant Kara, Vex'lar's second in command. Humans are resourceful, yes, but they are not warriors, not like the Korthians. Humans survived on a death world, Vex'lar said quietly. A planet with weather that actively tries to kill them, predators in every ecosystem, and diseases that evolve faster than their medical science can track. They did not just survive, they thrived. Never underestimate a species that invented the concept of spite. On the screen, Marcus and Emma materialized in the central hub of the station. They had chosen their loadout carefully. Marcus had taken something called a climbing axe as his weapon, while Emma had selected a long knife. They each carried packs with the standard supply. The broadcast was already live. Across the galaxy, billions of beings were tuning in to watch what most assumed would be a short, brutal hunt. The betting pools had opened and the odds were not in humanity's favor. Participants are in position, the automated system announced. Hunt begins in 60 seconds. Marcus and Emma stood back to back, scanning their surroundings. The mining station was a maze of corridors, equipment bays, and vertical shafts. It would be easy to get lost, easier to get trapped. Okay, Marcus said, his voice picked up by the broadcast equipment. So what is the plan? The plan? Emma said. The plan is to not die. That is literally the entire plan. Come on. We can do better than that. Fine. The plan is to avoid 3 angry aliens who are much better at fighting than we are, survive for 24 hours in a barely functional space station, and try not to do anything else that will start a war. See? That is a much better plan. Marcus? Yeah? If we survive this, I am going to kill you myself. Fair. The countdown reached 0. Somewhere in the station, the Korthians were being released at the opposite end. They would have the same basic layout information, but nothing more. This was meant to be a fair hunt. Of course, fair was a relative concept. Marcus looked up at one of the cameras broadcasting their every move. And then, in a moment that would be replayed across the galaxy for cycles to come, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a reassuring smile. It was the smile of a human who had just realized he was the underdog. And humans loved being underdogs. Hey, Battle Lord, Marcus shouted into the empty corridor, his voice echoing. You want to know the difference between you and me? Emma grabbed his arm. Marcus, what are you doing? You hunt for honor, Marcus continued, warming to his theme. You hunt for glory. You hunt because it is your sacred tradition. His voice dropped, and somehow that made it more intense. I hunt for spite. And then Marcus Webb, human, did something that would fundamentally change the way the galaxy viewed his species. He tilted his head back and let out a sound that was part roar, part scream, part challenge to the universe itself. A war cry. It echoed through the station, through the broadcast, through the speakers of a billion watching beings. It was primal. It was fierce. It was absolutely, completely human. Emma's hand shot out and clamped over his mouth. Are you out of your mind? She hissed. You just told them exactly where we are. Marcus gently removed her hand, still grinning. Emma, they were always going to find us. This is better. How is announcing our location better? Because now they know we are not running. And that, Marcus picked up his axe and tested its weight, is going to make them sloppy. From somewhere in the station, distant but clear, came an answering roar. The Korthians had heard. The hunt was... Emma looked at Marcus, then at the camera, then back at Marcus. We are going to die. Probably, Marcus agreed, but we are going to make them work for it. And with that, the two humans disappeared into the shadows of Station Gamma 7, while the galaxy watched and wondered if they had vastly underestimated the species that had named itself after dirt. The hunt had begun. Commander Vex'lar watched the holographic displays with 3 eyes that refused to blink. Around her in the observation deck, representatives from 40 species stood in similar states of transfixed attention. The broadcast of the hunt had attracted the largest viewership in galactic history. Even the contemplative monks of Serenor, who had taken vows of disinterest, were watching. They are heading for the lower levels, Lieutenant Kara observed, tracking the heat signatures. That is unexpected. Most prey moves upward, seeking escape routes. Humans are not most prey, Vex'lar muttered. On screen, Marcus and Emma moved through the corridors with surprising coordination. They did not run blindly. They stopped at regular intervals, Marcus marking walls with his knife, Emma checking corners with practiced efficiency. It was not the behavior of panicked victims. It was the behavior of soldiers. Wait, said Ambassador Threx, a floating gas entity from the Nebular Collective. Did the male human receive military training? Vex'lar checked her datapad. Negative. According to his file, Marcus Webb is a, how do they say it, software engineer. He writes code for entertainment systems. And the female, botanist. She studies plants. The observation deck fell silent. A programmer and a plant scientist were currently evading 3 of the Korthian Empire's finest warriors. This should not be possible, Threx said finally. And yet, Vex'lar replied. The Korthians were moving through the upper levels with methodical precision. Battle Lord, he who ends things, led his guards in a standard sweep pattern, checking rooms, marking cleared areas. Their movements were textbook perfect. Efficient, deadly. They were also predictable. There, Marcus whispered, pointing to a junction where 3 corridors met. The microphones picked up every word, broadcasting it to the galaxy. That is a choke point. They will have to come through there if they follow standard hunting patterns. Emma looked at him skeptically. And you know about standard hunting patterns because... video games mostly. You are basing our survival on video games. Hey, those games were designed by military consultants. Very realistic. Marcus, this is not a game. This is us. About to die in space. Semantics, Marcus said cheerfully. He was examining the corridor junction with intense focus. Okay, so here's what we are going to do. 15 minutes later, HFY watched as the Korthians approached the junction. They moved with weapons ready, scanning for threats. Battle Lord, he who ends things, gestured to his guards, and they split up, preparing to clear the intersection from multiple angles. Professional, competent, exactly what any tactical manual would recommend, which was why they did not see the trap until it was too late. Marcus had wedged his climbing axe into an overhead pipe, the one that still had pressure despite the station's decommissioned status. When the first Korthian guard triggered the tripwire, made from Emma's bootlaces, the axe came loose. The pipe exploded. Not with fire or shrapnel, but with something far worse for reptilian species. Freezing coolant. The liquid sprayed across all 3 Korthians, coating them in a substance that was not quite cold enough to kill, but definitely cold enough to make them very, very slow. Reptiles, even advanced spacefaring ones, were still vulnerable to temperature extreme. Did he just? Ambassador Threx began. He weaponized the station's infrastructure, Vex'lar confirmed, her mandibles clicking with what might have been admiration. In 15 minutes, the Korthians roared in fury and discomfort, but their movements had become sluggish. They would recover, certainly, but it would take time. Time that Marcus and Emma were using to disappear deeper into the station. That was not on the approved weapons list, protested Ambassador Krill of the Korthian delegation, who was watching from the far side of the observation deck. He cheated. Actually, Vex'lar said, checking the rules displayed on her pad. The hunt regulations state that participants may use 1 weapon from the approved list. They said nothing about improvising additional weapons from the environment. That is a technicality. Technically correct is the best kind of correct, Vex'lar replied using a human phrase she had learned recently. It seemed appropriate. Battle Lord. He who ends things was screaming into his communicator now, his translator struggling to keep up with the creative profanity. His scales were covered in frost and his movements looked like he was wading through thick mud. Dishonorable. He roared. Cowardly. They fight without honor. On another screen, Marcus and Emma had stopped in what looked like an equipment bay. They were both breathing hard, and Emma was laughing in that slightly unhinged way that indicated human stress response. We just booby-trapped alien dinosaurs with frozen plumbing, she said between gasps. This is insane. We are insane. Hey, it worked, did it not? Marcus was already examining their next hiding spot. And we bought ourselves maybe 20 minutes before they thaw out and get angrier. Angrier. Great, because they were so calm and friendly before. Marcus pulled out one of the nutrition packs from his supply bag and made a face. What is this even made of? Synthesized proteins and vitamins, Emma said. Why? Because it tastes like sadness and regret. He ate it anyway. Okay, so they know we are not playing fair now. We were never playing fair. Fair would involve not headbutting diplomats. Ancient history. Let us focus on the present. Emma sat down on a crate taking a drink from her water supply. Marcus. Real talk. What are the actual chances we survive this? Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice had lost some of its cheerful bravado. Honestly, maybe 30%. They are trained killers. We are civilians and we are in an enclosed space with limited resources. That is what I thought. But Marcus continued, we have one advantage they do not. What is that? They think this is a hunt. Capital H. Sacred tradition. Honor combat. All that stuff. Marcus grinned, and there was something wild in his expression. We know this is a survival situation, and humans are really good at survival. Back on the observation deck, Vex'lar was fielding complaints from no fewer than 7 ambassadors, all of whom seemed to think the hunt was not proceeding according to tradition. This is not how hunts are supposed to work, Ambassador Krill insisted. The prey is supposed to run, to hide, to show proper fear and respect for the predator's superiority. Perhaps, suggested Ambassador Threx thoughtfully. The issue is that humans do not recognize the concept of prey. Nonsense. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. They are clearly prey species. Then explain to me, Threx said, gesturing to the screens, why the predators are currently covered in ice and the prey are calmly eating lunch. Krill had no answer to that. On screen, the Korthians had recovered enough to start moving again. They were angry now. Professional discipline had given way to something more personal. Battle Lord, he who ends things, was not thinking about honor anymore. He was thinking about revenge. This is bad, Lieutenant Kara observed. Angry predators make mistakes, but they also stop holding back. Agreed, Vex'lar said. She activated her communication link. Humans, this is Commander Vex'lar. I am not supposed to provide assistance, but I feel obligated to inform you that the Korthians are no longer treating this as a formal hunt. They are now hunting you with intent to kill as painfully as possible. Marcus's voice came back over the channel. So, what you are saying is, nothing has changed. I suppose that is accurate. Cool. Thanks for the heads up, Commander. Good luck, human Marcus. Commander? Emma's voice this time. If we do not make it, can you do me a favor? Of course. Tell everyone at the Botanical Gardens on Europa that my research notes are in my quarters. The work on atmospheric processors. It matters. It could help terraforming efforts on 12 colony worlds. Vex'lar felt an odd sensation in her primary heart. Humans facing death still thought about helping others. It will be done. Commander? Marcus again? Tell Earth that we went down fighting. Humans like that kind of thing. The transmission ended. The hunt entered its 18th hour. The Korthians had found the humans twice more, and each time something impossible happened. The first time the humans had rigged a cargo lift to drop suddenly, forcing the Korthians to either jump a 3-story gap, or take a long detour. They chose the gap. One of the guards broke his leg on landing. The second time, Marcus had apparently figured out how to override door controls and trapped Battle Lord, he who ends things, in a storage room for 45 minutes. Where did he learn to hack alien computer systems? Lieutenant Kara demanded. He writes software for entertainment, Vex'lar reminded her. Apparently all computer logic is similar enough that he could puzzle it out. In less than a day? Humans learn quickly when motivated by imminent death. The audience watching the broadcast had grown to include an estimated 3 trillion beings across the galaxy. The betting pools had shifted dramatically. Humans were still unlikely to win, But the odds had gone from laughable to merely improbable. Several species had started social media campaigns supporting the humans. The phrase Team Soft Skin was trending across 47 different planetary networks. Hour 20 arrived. Marcus and Emma looked exhausted. They had found a small maintenance alcove and were taking turns sleeping in 30-minute shifts. Marcus was on watch, his climbing axe held ready, his eyes scanning the corridor beyond their hiding spot. Emma woke up and immediately checked her supply pack. "We are low on water." "I know, but we only need to last 4 more hours. 4 hours in which 3 very angry aliens are actively searching for us in a very small space station." Details. "Marcus, I am serious. We are running out of options. We are exhausted. We are dehydrated, and we have used up most of our tricks." Marcus nodded slowly. "So we need a new trick." "What kind of trick?" "The kind that ends this." Marcus stood up, wincing at his sore muscles. "Emma, what if we did not wait for them to find us? What if we went to them? That is called suicide. Or it is called taking the initiative." Marcus was getting that look again, the one that preceded terrible decisions. "Think about it. They are hunters. They expect prey behavior. Running. Hiding. Traps. Yes. But direct confrontation, that is predator behavior. We are not predators, Marcus. We are a software engineer and a botanist." "We are humans," Marcus corrected. "And humans are the most dangerous things on Earth, not because we are strong or fast, but because we do not quit. Ever. We climb to the top of the food chain on a death world using sticks and attitude." Emma stared at him. "You want to fight them? You actually want to fight 3 trained alien warriors? Not fight. Surprise. Big difference. That is the stupidest plan I have ever heard. You got a better one?" Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her pack and pulled out her knife. "If we are doing this, we do it smart. We pick the ground, we control the engagement, and Marcus, yeah? We survive, both of us. Non-negotiable." Marcus smiled. "Deal." They spent the next 30 minutes preparing, setting up their final stand in a large chamber that had once been the station's main processing facility. It was full of equipment, catwalks, and multiple levels. Good sight lines, multiple escape routes, defensible position, and one very large, very unstable piece of machinery that Marcus had identified as either a power generator or a really big bomb, hard to tell. "Okay," Emma said, positioning herself on an upper catwalk. "This is either brilliant or we are about to die." "Could be both," Marcus said cheerfully. He activated his communicator. "Hey Battle Lord, you still looking for us?" The response was immediate, and full of rage. "Human filth. I will mount your skull in my trophy hall." "Cool, cool. So, here is the thing. We are tired of running. You want to finish this hunt? We are in the main processing chamber. Come get us." The communication channel exploded with Korthian war cries. "They are coming," Emma said unnecessarily. "Yep. We are definitely going to die. Probably. I hate you so much right now." "I love you too, Emma." She blinked. "Wait. Sorry, survival situation. Emotions running high. Inappropriate timing. We will talk about it later if we live." "Marcus." But there was no time for relationship discussions because the Korthians had arrived. They burst into the chamber like a storm of scales and fury. Battle Lord, he who ends things, led the charge. His weapon raised, his roar echoing off the metal walls. His 2 guards flanked him, moving to cut off escape routes. It was a perfect tactical entrance, which was why they did not notice that the humans were not on the ground level. Marcus whistled, and 3 Korthian heads snapped upward. "Up here," Marcus called from his catwalk position. "Thanks for coming on such short notice, Battle Lord." He who ends things raised his weapon, some kind of energy projector that glowed with ominous light. And Marcus cut the cable holding up a suspended cargo container. 3 tons of mining equipment fell toward the Korthians. They scattered, their combat training overriding their rage. The container hit the ground with a sound like the end of the world, sending shrapnel and debris flying. But these were elite warriors. They recovered quickly, already moving to find cover and return fire. Emma dropped from her position, landing on top of one of the guards. She was not trained in combat. She did not know proper technique, but she knew where alien anatomy kept important things, and her knife found them with desperate efficiency. The guard went down. Marcus jumped from his catwalk, not at an enemy, but at a control panel. His fingers flew over the alien interface. Come on. Universal design principles have to apply somewhere. Energy blasts exploded around him, scorching the metal walls. "Marcus!" Emma screamed, already running toward him. "Got it." Marcus slammed his hand down on what he hoped was the right button. The unstable machinery, the thing that was either a generator or a bomb, began to hum, then shake, then scream. "Everyone might want to leave," Marcus shouted. "Right now. Battle Lord." He who ends things looked at the machinery, looked at Marcus, and for the first time his expression showed something other than rage. It showed fear. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Honestly, not entirely sure, but I am pretty confident it is going to explode in about 90 seconds. The Battle Lord roared, but it was not a war cry. It was frustration, fury, and the realization that he had been outmaneuvered by prey, by humans. He grabbed his remaining guard and ran for the exit. Marcus and Emma ran too, in the opposite direction, toward a service tunnel that Marcus had identified earlier. They made it through the door with 15 seconds to spare. The explosion was not nuclear. It was not even particularly large by space station standards, but it was enough to seal the main chamber, cutting off pursuit and triggering the station's emergency protocols, which included an automatic hunt termination signal. In the observation deck, Vex'lar's console lit up with alerts. "Hunt concluded," the automated system announced. "Participants have survived the allotted time period. Hunt rules satisfied." The observation deck erupted into chaos. Some beings cheered, others protested. Ambassador Krill was screaming about honor and tradition and how this was all wrong. But the rules were clear. Marcus and Emma had survived for one planetary rotation. They had won. Vex'lar allowed herself a small mandible click of satisfaction. "Lieutenant Kara, please dispatch a recovery team to Station Gamma 7. Retrieve all participants. Even the Korthians? Especially the Korthians. I suspect their egos are more damaged than their bodies." 6 hours later, Marcus and Emma stood in Vex'lar's office. They looked terrible. Bruised, exhausted, covered in grime and coolant and things that Vex'lar did not want to identify. They also looked victorious. "The Korthian Empire has formally withdrawn their demand for execution," Vex'lar said. "Apparently, surviving a hunt against Battle Lord, he who ends things, has earned you a degree of respect. Grudging, angry respect, but respect nonetheless." "So we are not starting a war?" Emma asked. "No war, although I would recommend avoiding Korthian space for the foreseeable future." "That works for us," Marcus said. Vex'lar studied them both. "You have changed things. You understand this, yes? Every species in the galaxy watch two humans with no combat training, no natural advantages, survive against apex predators. There will be questions, concern. Some species are already arguing that humans should be reclassified." "From what to what?" Emma asked. Vex'lar's translator struggled with the next word, because there was not a direct equivalent in human language for what the galactic community was debating. "From prey," she said slowly, "to persistence predators." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Because we annoyed them to death? Because you did not give up? Because you adapted? Because you turned disadvantages into weapons and made the environment itself your ally?" Vex'lar leaned forward. "That is what has the galaxy worried. Not that humans are strong, but that humans refuse to lose." Emma and Marcus exchanged glances. "Is that really so scary?" Emma asked. "To species who have defined themselves by their position in the food chain for millions of cycles?" Vex'lar's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Yes. Terrifying." Marcus grinned. "Good." They left the office shortly after, heading back to their quarters for what Vex'lar suspected would be several days of sleep and recovery. But before they disappeared down the corridor, Vex'lar called out, "Human Marcus. One question." He turned back. "Yeah, Commander? That war cry. Why did you do it?" "You gave away your position. Alerted the enemy. Removed your tactical advantage." Marcus thought about it for a moment. "Because it scared them more than it helped them. Because sometimes the scariest thing you can do is show that you are not afraid. And because," he smiled, "I wanted them to know that humans do not run quietly into the dark." "And covering his mouth?" Vex'lar asked Emma. Emma shrugged. "Someone has to keep him alive long enough to be properly terrifying." They left together and Vex'lar watched them go, her mandibles clicking in a pattern that indicated deep thought. Humans had survived on a death world by being stubborn, creative, and just crazy enough to charge at things that should have eaten them. Now they were in space. The galaxy was either going to have to adapt to them or get out of their way. Vex'lar suspected she knew which option would be more likely. Later that cycle, she filed her official report on the incident. At the end, she added a personal note. A recommendation that would go directly to the Galactic High Council. It read, Humanity Status Update, recommend reclassification from Category 7 developing species to Category 3 established species with special notation. Humans do not fit traditional predator or prey classifications. They are something new. Suggest new category survivors. Proceed with diplomatic relations accordingly. And for all our sakes, try not to make them angry. She sent the report and poured herself a drink of fermented Kelzar root. It was going to be a long few cycles. Somewhere in the human quarters, Marcus and Emma were probably arguing, laughing, or planning their next disaster. And somewhere in Korthian space, Battle Lord He Who Ends Things was staring at a hologram of two humans and wondering how his perfect hunt had gone so spectacularly wrong. The answer, of course, was simple. He had treated them like prey. They had treated it like a Tuesday. And that made all the difference.